been in my freezer for 37 years. And I was always told it was like a wedding cake top.
Adam Smith had been living in this apartment taking care of his mother, who passed away from cancer just days ago. He showed us a photograph of a wrapped box that was in his freezer. He said his mother kept it inside their freezer for decades and told him to stay away from it. He opened it after she passed away.
There was a pink blanket, baby blanket, and when I reached down and touched it, and I could feel a foot, and I could see the baby's head with hair. Hair was still attached to it, smooth.
Police responded to the building early Sunday morning. They called the death suspicious. Smith told them, as strange as it sounds, he never looked inside that wrapped box, thinking it was a frozen wedding cake. He says it was a shock to him when he discovered the baby.
At least 3 aircraft have been hijacked in the United States, 2 of which were hijacked in the New York area, and they were driven into the World Trade Center towers.
It always really interests me when I come across a piece of 9/11 related media that I've never seen before. Just like this picture I recently saw of the Twin Towers just 2 hours before the attacks began on 9/11/2001. This photo is just incredibly eerie, and I couldn't believe I'd never seen it. I had also never seen this photograph taken from another plane on 9/11 after both of the towers had been hit. I can't imagine the chilling feeling that the passengers that took these photos must have felt when they learned exactly what had gone on that day. And it's something that I've thought about before, but I'd never seen a video of or any evidence of what it was like for other people that were actually on planes on 9/11. Like how they dealt with what was going on, how they told them the information. And I can't imagine how frightening it must have been to hear that information being broadcast across the PA system on a plane on 9/11. I'm going to play you a little bit more of that clip because I just think it's really interesting.
Hijacked airplane, and that was blown up and destroyed out over the ocean. Let's see, 4th item here. The Pentagon was attacked with a helicopter loaded with explosives, and there's no damage estimates right now. Also,
This 12-year-old child bride is shown kissing her brand new 32-year-old husband in this photo. And the story behind this picture is disturbing. So this is 32-year-old Homer Peel from Tennessee and his 12-year-old bride Geneva. They got married somehow in the 1930s in Tennessee, but not without controversy. You see, locals in the area protested this marriage, and they were constantly making their thoughts known. I mean, obviously, this is a 12-year-old girl getting married to a 32-year-old man. It blows my mind that disgusting filth like this used to be legal here in America, but unfortunately, that's just history, and it was. So, like I said, in the 1930s, Homer decided to take his child bride down to the courthouse to get married. And get married they did. Now, Geneva's mother didn't know that she was going to the courthouse to get married, and when her mother found out about this, she filed a lawsuit to try to get the marriage annulled, essentially to cancel the marriage. However, the judge said that he wouldn't annul the marriage because, as it turned out, Geneva had been living in a poorhouse with her mother, and the judge decided that her life was better with her 32-year-old husband than with her mother in the poorhouse. So, he just decided not to annul the marriage and sent the child victim back home with her abuser. I mean, this is absolutely disgusting, disturbing shit, but predators and pedophiles aren't a modern thing. And in some cases, this demonic-looking statue actually killed its sculptor. This is Blucifer, also known as Blue Mustang, which sits outside of the Denver International Airport. The statue was commissioned in 1992 for $300,000. It was partly modeled after the sculptor's own horse, and it's also been suggested that it was inspired by legends from San Luis Valley. Legends of a blue horse that was said to be the leader of other Mustangs with red eyes that could fly. So this is Luis Jimenez. He's the guy who sculpted this thing. And while he was in the process of creating Blucifer, Luis had to have surgery on his hands and he suffered a heart attack. However, in the year 2006, at age 55, something tragic happened. At one point during the day, one of Blucifer's 3 sections came loose, swung down, and pinned Luis against a steel support beam. This unfortunately severed an artery in Luis's leg, and he bled to death before he could be removed from the building. 2 years later, Blucifer was installed outside of the Denver International Airport. And it was met with mixed reactions. Some people really loved it, other people said it was demonic and creepy. But I will say that it doesn't exactly look like a friendly Mustang. And in September of 2020, a man was seen at the base of Blucifer. The man had a gun and he was firing up at the statue. Then moments later, he started firing at oncoming traffic before turning the gun on himself and taking his own life at the base of the statue. So, is this statue really cursed? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section.
I'm HIV positive, right? And this is just a PSA to those that are not HIV positive. Disclosure is my choice. When I disclose and how I disclose and who I disclose to is up to me. I find it so crazy how people are telling me that I need to disclose before I go on a date, that I need to disclose before I kiss somebody. This is the craziest one. Before I even tell them my name. It's not happening. I don't think that it's my responsibility to tell someone that I'm HIV positive if they are treating me as if I'm not. Your health is your responsibility. Adopt the mindset of medical practitioners. Assume that everyone has something until they prove to you that they do not. Why are you kissing a stranger or trying to kiss a stranger that you just met? Why are you trying to have intercourse with someone raw that you just met? You don't know me from a hole in a wall. Why are you trying to put your thing inside of me without any kind of protection? Why do I have to be the one to say, hey, chill out, I'm HIV positive, instead of you asking, taking the time to know me, get to know me, let's go get tested together if you want to take the next step. Why do I have to be the one protecting you from yourself? No, baby, that is not my responsibility. And I just wanted to make that clear. Okay, love you, bye.
This is a real picture of a real building on a United States Navy base. So as you can see right here, this is the Naval Amphibious Base Coronado. And yes, as you can see in all of these photographs, this building was designed and constructed in a very specific way. So construction of this building on this base started in the 1960s, about 20 or so years after the end of World War II. So people were very well aware of what that symbol meant at that specific time in history. The guy who designed and the architect behind the building is a man named John Mock from San Diego. John was a famous architect from the area. He was brought in to design this building. And in a later interview, he actually said, yes, it kind of looked like that symbol, but it definitely wasn't intended to be that symbol. Now, for years, nobody complained about this building because you really couldn't see it from above. People passed by the building all the time and they didn't really notice what shape it was in. But when Google Earth exploded in popularity, journalists began noticing this strangely shaped building and started raising the alarm bells. Now, interestingly, the Navy and spokespersons from the Navy initially denied that this building was meant to be built like this. In 2006, a spokesperson said that only one of these L's was initially meant to be constructed, and that the other three were constructed afterwards, and they had no idea that it would end up looking like this. However, records were eventually unearthed that showed, yes, they knew exactly what this was going to look like. You can see right here, this is in some of the original documentation, and everybody involved in this building's construction signed on.
Unanswered questions after a 911 call in Pueblo from a funeral home and cemetery. August 11th, just before 3:30 in the morning, the police department communications center got a call that they refer to as abandoned, meaning the other person hung up. So they called back, got an answer, and heard mostly static. An officer was sent out to check out the funeral home and cemetery and says it was locked up and dark with no one in sight.
So that phone call that you just heard was coming from this funeral home and cemetery in Pueblo, Colorado. The call came in at 3:28 a.m. and when the dispatcher at the police station picked up the phone call, they listened, nobody said anything, and then the caller hung up. However, as you heard in that video, the police dispatcher then called the phone number back, and that's when they got that spooky voice. That is just one of the creepiest things I've ever heard, I do have to say. And that call and voice came from somebody or something within the cemetery gates. There's just something so eerie to me about stories of people receiving phone calls or text messages from their loved ones who have passed on, or even in this case, receiving a phone call from an empty funeral home and cemetery. It's completely unexplainable. To this day, there's been no explanation, and that audio recording haunts me.